two scenes. Scene 1 takes place in what was once a beautiful home, but has now become run down. Scene 2 takes place after the house has been sold and it is empty. The theme of the play is, as the title suggests, it's about putting away the old that encumbers us, a person changing one's life to newness and moving forward. The main character, Judge Hawkins, is a widower, a man in his 60s who is wearing a well-worn suit. His appearance and attitude conveys that he has deemed himself to accept contentedly his life as a widower. His only companion is his cat, a being that he can toss aside at his pleasure. His focus primarily is in his work which he has become tired and bothered. His pastime is visiting the grave of his dead wife. He has no plans to change any of his surroundings or himself. His housekeeper, Margaret, a stately and highly perceptible woman, being concerned about him, she suggests that at least he invite a person to have a meal with him or take to a movie once in a while. He shows no interest in her advice, however. The scene opens with Judge Hawkins coming home from work and going through the ordinary motions of getting settled in. He puts down his briefcase, notices the mail and newspaper on the entry table. He thumbs through the mail and lays it down. He picks up the newspaper and reads the headlines, shaking his head as if the news is bad. He lays the newspaper down and announces his presence as he walks towards the kitchen, calling out,
"Hello, Margaret. I'm home."
Judge Hawkins, oh, precisely on time, 5:30. You are always prompt.
Yes, Margaret. I didn't have any stops on the way. I did everything I needed to do in my lunch hour. You know, I really don't like to have to stop somewhere after I leave the office. It's so tiring trying to combat the lines of women who are like a swarm of buzzing bees, trying to get their errands done before 6 or 6:30. I'm telling you, they are a dangerous breed.
Aha!
For sure. There have been times that I just knew that by the time I finished grocery shopping or picked up my dry cleaning, I would be minus a few toes or come back home with black and blue calves. Not to mention my ears.
Your ears? Why your ears?
From those screaming children who are tired and hungry after being dragged all over town.
Oh, I see. Well, yes, such is the life of a working mother. Unfortunately, they can't afford a housekeeper. In this day and age, women not only have to work outside the home, but take care of the children and do all of the housework.
And I can tell you, from my perspective in the justice system, this modern high-paced life is a major contributor to family breakdown, divorce, and juvenile crime.
Oh, I agree, Judge. I'm just thinking of the bitter divorces and custody battles that have happened right here in this small town. One spouse or the other accusing the other one of horrible things. Well, take, for example, the Browns. You know, I have known the Browns for 3 generations, and I've known the wife's family since she was a little girl. Well, they are all fine people, but the upcoming divorce, the custody battle over their son, it's due to the pressures, I think, of trying to make a living and keep up with all of today's demands. Well, they can't. So what happens? The couple argues and fights and gives up and, well, I'm sure, Judge, I don't need to tell you what you already know. Certainly, from your bench, you have seen it all. Now to get to something more pleasant. On the kitchen counter, there is a fresh lemon meringue pie. In the fridge, you'll find a tossed green salad, and on the stove, some asparagus tips with red and orange peppers. So just turn on the burner, and after the water comes to a boil, let them cook, well, just for a minute or two. just until they turn a vivid, bright color. No more. And then in the oven, there's a chicken and rice casserole.
Margaret, that sounds wonderful. I'm sure that it will satisfy this hungry stomach of mine.
Judge, the pie turned out really quite nice. You know, you might want to invite someone over to share a piece of pie with you. You know, Judge, if you don't mind my saying, I do find that you spend all of your evenings alone. I think it would be good for you if you invited some people over once in a while. Well, you know, for polite conversation. Something to free your mind from all the seriousness you have to deal with every day.
You're probably right, Margaret. I should do that once in a while. Now, let's see, Margaret. I see that you have no doubt worked all day, going grocery shopping, doing the laundry, scrubbing and scouring. There's not a speck of dust to be found anywhere. Margaret, what would I ever do without you? I need to pay you.
Oh, I'm sure that you would manage. You know, Judge, there are plenty of available women out there. I think that you might find one that could be good company for you. Somebody you could have a pleasant evening with. Well, maybe go to dinner or a movie, carry on a good conversation. Well, someone to help alleviate the burden of all that crime that you deal with.
Margaret, your advice is well taken. But when a person was married for as long as I was to Julia and had the life that we had, it's not easy to forget it. To try to find someone to...
Well, to take her place. But Judge Hawkins, oh, and please forgive me if I'm treading where I shouldn't be. But you will never find someone to take Julia's place. It will be someone totally different, but interesting in her own right, just as Julia was interesting. Judge Hawkins, Julia's been gone for 3 years. I have kept your house for many years before Julia died, and for the 3 years since. Before Julia died, the two of you had guests here. There was life. I remember getting the house ready and making party dishes. And now, for the last 3 years, you have had all of your meals alone. It's just time to change, to move on with your life. I wish that Julia could just appear and talk some sense to you. I'm just so sure she would not expect you to come home from work and live like a hermit. You really need to think about this, sir.
Yes, Margaret, but thank you for your concern. Now the smell of that casserole is calling me. Here is a check that I had promised you for the work you have done and for attending to all my needs.
Well, thank you, and enjoy your dinner. Hopefully, afterward, you'll have time to relax or maybe watch TV or something. Please, sir, think about what I said.
I'm sure that the dinner will be delicious. Your cooking always is. Now, for the rest of the evening, well, I am afraid that I have to review papers for a case tomorrow morning.
Ah, I see.
Margaret's bland response signals that life will just go on in the most routine way, and that her work and advice are and will continue to be ineffective. Slowly, she walks towards the coat rack. The judge takes her coat and holds it for her to slip into. She picks up her purse, opens it, and puts the check in it, and bids him good night. Judge Hawkins opens the door for Margaret, and Margaret leaves. Getting settled for the evening, he makes himself comfortable. He takes his wallet and keys out of his pocket and lays them on the table in the entryway. He tosses his tie and sighs as if to say, "That feels good." Then he disappears into the kitchen to finish making his meal and to eat it. In the kitchen, while eating, you can hear him scold the cat.
Kitty cat, you don't have to jump up on me to steal my chicken out of the casserole off my plate. You little thief, you. Now get down. I'll put some in your dish. There is enough for both of us.
Without a doubt, the two of them enjoyed their meal, because for the duration, the only sound to be heard was a slight cling-clang of the fork against the judge's plate and a soft meow from the cat when she finished. Afterwards, however, Judge Hawkins' attitude showed irritation with the cat and his work.
Now, pretty cat, it's time for you to go outside and play. Chase some butterflies, or else find some bugs for your dessert. One sure thing, you aren't getting into my lemon pie. Not that you would like it. Come to think of it, you would probably prefer a cream pie. One that was topped with real whipped cream. Well, you are not getting that either. Now, out you go. I don't have time for you. Now, scat, kitty cat. We can visit later. I'm going to eat my pie and get to work. Yes, I have to look at those brown papers for their miserable divorce. Such a way I have to make a living and spend an evening. Try to solve someone else's miserable problems so they can get on with their life.
Judge Hawkins enters the living room with his pie. He sits on the side table next to him, to his favorite armchair. He goes over to the entryway where he puts his briefcase. When he came in, he picks it up, takes it to the armchair, and puts it down. He plops down in the chair, picks up his pie, and eats it while smacking his lips. Without a doubt, he enjoyed it. When he had scraped the plate clean, barely leaving a smudge, he takes out his papers and begins reading. He is interrupted by the noise of rattling keys. He looks around, trying to figure out what is happening. By the table at the entryway, a shadowy figure of a lady dressed in white appears. She picks up the keys that Judge put down on the table and rattles them in order to announce her appearance. She becomes more visible and moves closer to the armchair. Judge Hawkins appears astonished and frozen. The lady opens a conversation.
Oh, my dear, what a frightful look you have on your face. You look like you've just seen death. You're as white as a sheet.
What is this? What's happening here?
Oh, don't be frightened, my dear. It's me, Julia.
Julia?
Yes, dear, it's me, Julia. I know that you remember me because you came to the cemetery today to put flowers on my grave and to eat lunch.
Julia?
Yes, dear, it's me. How sweet of you to remember my birthday. I would have been 58 years old had I lived, had that drunk driver not hit my car on the highway, smashing my heart up against my backbone. I didn't have a chance. And by the way, I understand that the justice system does work and that the criminal is spending the rest of his life behind bars. Now, back to my birthday. The flowers that you bought me were quite beautiful. A summer arrangement of pink and white roses. Thank you, Charles.
Yes, you're welcome.
Well, they were beautiful. Each one of a dozen, perfect, just like our marriage. And how sweet they smelled, so heavenly.
Yes?
Yeah, heavenly, yes. I would know, wouldn't I, since I'm actually there.
Julia?
Relax, dear. It's just me. I've come to visit you. You see, I really wanted to appear when Margaret was here. I heard how she talked to you, trying to get you to loosen up and go forward with your life. But I didn't make my entrance then. One, I was afraid that I would frighten her. And two, I didn't want to embarrass you. You never know how someone will act when the dead appear. And so I busied myself upstairs in the bedroom until she left and you had your dinner.
Julia?
Now, Charles, I've made my entrance when we're alone. You don't have to tell anyone. If you want to, this can be our secret. Or should I say, your secret. You see, I told your mother and father and my mother and father that I was coming to see you. We were all so worried about you.
Worried?
Yes, Charles, worried. Worried, sick. Well, I shouldn't say sick. In heaven, there is no sickness. I seem that I have never gotten rid of that old earthly expression, Yes, it's just an expression, nothing more.
Nothing more. I see. Of course. But why are you worried?
I've been gone for 3 years, and you've never gotten over it.
Julia, you sound like you are scolding me. How can you scold me for loving you, for honoring your memory?